Would you buy a $1 million Cape Coral Golf Access home without ever seeing it in person? It sounds crazy, but every year I help buyers from Chicago, Minneapolis, Cleveland, and New York do exactly that. In this video, I'll show you exactly how they do it, how they avoid expensive mistakes, and why most of them tell me they wish they'd moved sooner. I'm Barry Cessna, your Cape Coral Golf Access Realtor, specializing in golf access homes for Midwest and Northeastern boaters relocating to Cape Coral. I have a program specifically designed for buyers in your situation called the Cape Coral Out-of-Town Buyers Club. It's a complimentary and it's built for buyers doing exactly what you're trying to do. Connect with me like many others already have who are now living their Cape Coral dream. Now there's a link in the description, so go ahead and click that to get started. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through the entire out-of-state buying process from the first conversation all the way to getting the keys, including what a buyer visit to Cape Coral looks like, how financing works from out of state, and what happens during inspection and title, and yes, how you can close on a Cape Coral home without ever leaving your home state if that is what your situation requires. All right, let's get into it. First, I want to validate something. The fear of buying from out of state is completely legitimate. You cannot just drive by the house on a Saturday afternoon. You cannot feel the neighborhood or smell the canal or hear what the boat traffic sounds like on a Sunday morning when everyone is casting off and heading out to open water. You are making one of the largest financial decisions of your life based on photos, videos, and conversations with someone you've never met in person. This is a real vulnerability, and anyone who tells you it is not a big deal isn't being honest with you. But here's what I also know from working with buyers from Chicago, Minneapolis, Cleveland, and all across the Northeast every single week. The buyers who do this well, the ones who close on the right home and love every minute of their Cape Coral life afterward, all follow the same process. They do not wing it. They do not scroll Zillow for 6 months and then fly down and make an offer in a panic. They educate themselves first. They connect with the right people early, and they follow a process that protects them at every single step. Let me tell you about a couple I'm working with right now, because their story is exactly what this process looks like in real life. They found me through this YouTube channel. They watched a lot of videos, became educated on the canal system, golf access, the neighborhoods, what their budget could actually get them. Now, a couple of months ago, they came down for a quick trip because the wife was in the process of locking up a job with the hospital system here in Cape Coral. Now, while they were here, we spent time together looking at homes, getting a feel for the different neighborhoods and the areas that made sense for their situation. No pressure, just education and exploration. Then she got the job. They called me from Ohio and said their house was on the market and they were going to be moving to Cape Coral in the next 45 days. Now, it was time to get serious. We identified a couple of homes. One they had already walked through on their first visit, and one was brand new to the market. I did video tours on both so they could see every detail from Ohio. We talked through the neighborhoods, the traverse times, the canal situation for each property, and before long, we were under contract. I offered to have them fly down before the due diligence period to see the home in person. They said no. The video tours I had done were thorough enough that they felt completely comfortable moving forward. My inspector went through the property and did a detailed inspection, caught a few things that needed attention. We handled them and they felt confident in the home. They never stepped inside that house until after closing, and they felt completely comfortable and natural throughout the entire process. I always recommend buyers fly down during the due diligence period once we're under contract. That is your opportunity to walk through the home, attend the inspection in person, get back on the water, and make absolutely sure this is the right decision before you are fully committed. I want you to have that experience if at all possible. But I also understand that life does not always make it easy to get away. You have work, family, and timing, and many of my buyers simply cannot make it happen. That's okay. When that is the case, we make sure the video tours are thorough, the inspection report is detailed, and you have every piece of information you need to move forward with complete confidence. My buyers in Ohio are in a perfect example of that. They trusted the process, they trusted their inspector, and they walked into their new Cape Coral home after closing feeling completely at home. That is what this process looks like and how it works. That is what is possible when you educate yourself first, connect with the right people, and trust the process. This is exactly what I'm going to give you right now. One of the biggest mistakes out-of-state buyers make is going directly to the listing agent. And I see it happen constantly with out-of-state buyers who do not know any better. Here is what you need to understand. The listing agent works for the seller. Their job is to get the highest possible price for the property they represent. They are not on your side. They cannot be. It is a conflict of interest by definition. When you call the number on the Zillow listing, you are calling the seller's agent. And if you do not have someone in your corner who knows this market, knows the neighborhoods, and knows what a property is truly worth, you are walking into a negotiation completely unprotected. Let me give you a real example of what that looks like in practice. I recently had a buyer purchase a home in Cape Coral, and during the process, we discovered that the seller had purchased the same home 2 years earlier for $100,000 more than what my buyer paid. $100,000. The previous buyer had gone directly to the listing agent. She did not understand the Cape Coral market, and she trusted someone whose job was to get as much money as possible for the seller. She was taken advantage of, and she did not even know it until it was too late. This is what happens without the right representation. And this is exactly why having a buyer's agent who knows this market, knows the neighborhoods, knows the Gulf access is actually worth at different locations and different traverse times, and knows how to negotiate on your behalf is not optional, it's essential. Now, here is the good news. You do not need to spend weeks watching videos and doing research before you connect with me. The sooner you connect with me, the better. That is exactly what the Cape Coral Out-of-Town Buyers Club is designed for. We get on a complimentary video call, I share my screen, and I walk you through everything you need to know about this market based on your specific situation, your budget, and your boating lifestyle. I do the educating, you ask the questions, and we build a plan together from day one. The education happens, it just happens with me, not before you call me. So what does connecting with me actually look like? It starts with a complimentary video call through the Cape Coral Out-of-Town Buyers Club. This is not a sales call. This is a working session. I share my screen and we dive in together. I pull up live MLS listings right now in your budget and walk you through exactly what each one delivers on the water. I show you the map, the canal, the route to open water, the traverse time, and idle speeds. If you already have a boat, I want to know the height from your water line to your highest fixed point so I can immediately tell you which properties work for your vessel and which ones we need to skip. We talk about which quadrants of Cape Coral make sense for your boating lifestyle, what the market is doing right now, and what a realistic timeline looks like from first conversation all the way to closing. Now, by the end of that call, you are not searching blindly anymore. You know exactly what your budget buys you on the water in Cape Coral. You know which neighborhoods fit your boating profile. You know what the process looks like from start to finish. And you have a Cape Coral Gulf Access Realtor in your corner who knows this market. Buyers from Chicago, Minneapolis, Cleveland, upstate New York, and all across the country connect with me every week through the Cape Coral Out-of-Town Buyers Club. Every single one of them says the same thing after the first call. They wish they'd done it sooner. There's a link in the description. Connect with me and let's get started. Once we know exactly what you are looking for, I go to work. I am in the Cape Coral MLS every single day. I know which neighborhoods fit your boating profile, which listings are priced correctly for what they deliver on the water, and which ones have issues that will never show up in the listing photos. When something comes up that fits your criteria, I send it to you immediately with my honest assessment. Not just the highlights, but the things you need to know before you fall in love with it. And this works both ways. Now, if you find something on Zillow, Realtor.com, or Redfin, or anywhere else that catches your eye, send it to me. I will pull it up on the MLS, look at the full history, evaluate the location, the canal, the Gulf access situation, the traverse time, and give you my honest read on whether it's worth pursuing. You are not searching alone. We are searching together. I want to be clear about something. In Cape Coral, the right Gulf access homes at the right price do not sit on the market waiting for you. When a well-priced direct access home hits the market in a desirable location, serious buyers move on it fast. Hesitation is expensive in this market. That is why staying in constant communication during the search matters. You are not waiting for a weekly update email. You are getting real-time information as the market moves, so when the right home comes up, we are ready to act. Now, during this phase, I'm also doing video walkthroughs of properties for you, and I want to explain what that actually means because it is very different from the listing agent's promotional video. I'm not walking through showing you the pretty kitchen and a nice pool. I'm walking through the way a boater evaluates a property. I'm showing you how the dock sits relative to the canal. I'm showing you the neighboring properties on both sides. I'm walking to the water and showing you the canal width and what the view actually looks like from the dock. I'm telling you honestly what the boating experience is going to feel like from this specific location. The traverse time, the canal traffic, the bridge situation, if there is one. I'm also pointing out the pros and cons of every property. Now, if the seawall needs attention, I'm going to tell you. If the location is not as good as the photos make it look, I'm going to tell you. If the price does not reflect what the home actually delivers on the water, I'm going to tell you. And from time to time, I'm going to walk through a property and tell you flat out that I do not recommend moving forward. I also review the flood zone designation and the assessments on every property. Whether the home is on city water and sewer or well and septic makes a real difference in your ongoing costs and your closing costs, and you need to know that before you make an offer. Now, flood zone designation affects your insurance costs significantly, and I want you to have an estimate of that number before you fall in love with the property, not after. This is the difference between having a Cape Coral Golf Access specialist in your corner and working with a general real estate agent who happens to sell waterfront homes. At some point in the process, I highly recommend you come down to Cape Coral in person. And when you do not just treat it as a house hunting trip. Treat it as an experience. Drive around the city, get a feel for the neighborhoods, check out the restaurants. There are some genuinely great places to eat here, and a lot of them are right on the water. Rent a boat and get out on the canals or head out to the open water and explore. While you're down here, I also highly recommend making time to visit Sanibel Island and Fort Myers Beach. Both are short drives from Cape Coral and give you a real feel for the broader Southwest Florida lifestyle. And spend some time in both downtowns. Downtown Cape Coral and downtown Fort Myers have completely different vibes, and both are worth exploring. Cape Coral's downtown has a neighborhood feel that is still growing and evolving. Fort Myers has a more established urban energy with great restaurants, nightlife, and the historic river district right on the Caloosahatchee River. Seeing both gives you a much fuller picture of the area you are considering calling home. For where to stay, I recommend the Westin Cape Coral Resort at Marina Village. It sits right on the marina, on the water, and a lot of my clients stay there when they come to town. It puts you right in the middle of the Cape Coral waterfront lifestyle from the moment you arrive. Now, if you want to be closer to downtown Cape Coral, the Holiday Inn Express is a great option and puts you right in the heart of the city. Now, when it comes to looking at homes, here is how I work with visiting buyers. Before you arrive, I will already be sending you homes that fit your criteria and your budget. You can also send me any listings you found on your own that you want to see on Zillow or Realtor.com, wherever you're searching. We compile the list together, and when you arrive, we are looking at homes that are specifically in your price range and match what you are looking for. No time wasted on properties that do not fit. If you are here on an exploratory trip, you want to get a feel for the market, see what different neighborhoods look like, and start narrowing down exactly what you want. We will spend a morning or an afternoon together. I'll take you through 3 or 4 homes, talk through the neighborhoods, give you a real tour of what Cape Coral has to offer on the water, and grab lunch together. Now, by the end of that time, you will have a much clearer picture of what you want. And we can keep sending targeted listings your way until the right one shows up. Now, if you are here because it is time, you are ready to find the right home and get it under contract, then we spend as much time as we need. We are not rushing. We are finding the right home for you and making sure every question is answered before you commit. Either way, the visit is valuable. Even if you do not buy on this trip, you will leave knowing exactly what you are looking for. And that clarity makes everything that comes after it much faster and much easier. When we find the right home, we move. Golf access homes at the right price in a desirable location do not sit on the market, and the best ones attract serious buyers quickly. Being ready to act when the moment comes is part of what separates buyers who get the home they want from buyers who are still thinking about it when it goes under contract. Now, before we ever write an offer, I walk you through the Florida purchase contract in detail so you understand what you're agreeing to. Every state handles real estate contracts differently, and Florida has specific terms and protections that out-of-state buyers are often not familiar with. Understanding the contract before you sign it is not optional, it's how you protect yourself. Once the contract is accepted, your escrow deposit is wired directly to the title company within 3 days. That deposit is typically around 1.5% of the purchase price. It is held safely in escrow and is fully refundable as long as you cancel within the due diligence period or inspection period. Now, the due diligence period in Florida is typically about 10 to 14 days. This is your safety net, and it is one of the most important protections you have as a buyer. Now, during this window, you have the right to inspect the property thoroughly and cancel the contract for any reason and get your full deposit back. No questions asked. We use every day of that window and we use it wisely. Now, here is something worth knowing about timing and travel. I do not recommend flying to Cape Coral every time you like a home. That gets expensive and wastes time quickly. Now, the smart approach is to wait until we have successfully negotiated the right price and gotten the home under contract before you book a flight. Now, if we cannot negotiate the right price, there's no reason to come down. But once we are under contract and inside the due diligence period, that is exactly when I recommend you fly in. You can walk through the home, attend the inspection, spend time in the neighborhood, get back on the water, and if for any reason something does not feel right, you still have the ability to cancel and get your deposit back in full. Your money is protected the entire time. In practice, most buyers who come down during due diligence move forward. That is because by the time we get to this point, we have done a thorough job identifying the right home together. The visit during due diligence is less about discovering a reason not to buy and more about confirming what you already know. That is, that this home is the right one for you and your Cape Coral boating lifestyle. Now, during the due diligence period, we are also getting insurance quotes. This is important and do not skip it. Flood insurance in particular is something to evaluate carefully. In many cases, the seller's existing flood insurance policy is transferable to the buyer, which can save you significant money, sometimes thousands of dollars a year, compared to taking out a brand new policy. We look at this every transaction because it directly affects your ongoing costs of ownership. As for closing timelines, cash buyers can close in as fast as 15 days, though 30 days is more typical. Finance buyers are typically looking at about 35 to 45 days to close, depending on the lender and complexity of the transaction. Knowing your timeline before you make an offer matters because it affects how you structure the contract and what closing date works for everyone involved. And then there is the price. Now, this is where having an experienced Cape Coral Golf Access agent negotiating on your behalf makes a real financial difference. I know what Golf Access homes are actually worth in each neighborhood at each traverse time with each type of access. I know when a home is priced right, when it's overpriced, and when there is room to negotiate. Remember, the buyer I told you about earlier, who paid $100,000 more than she should have because she trusted the listing agent, that does not happen when you have someone in your corner who knows this market and is negotiating specifically for you. Now, whether you're financing or paying cash, there are some important things to understand before you start making offers. The first question that matters for finance buyers is how you plan to use the property. This is not just a lifestyle question. It determines your loan type, your down payment, and your interest rate. Now, if you are buying a second home, meaning you plan to use it personally and may rent it out occasionally, but it is not primarily a rental property, you are looking at a minimum of 10% down with interest rates that run slightly above primary residence rates. That is a very accessible entry point for most buyers at this price range. Now, if you are buying primarily as an investment property or a full-time rental, you are looking at 20 to 25% down with a higher interest rate. The trade-off is the rental income can be used to qualify for the loan, which helps some buyers. This distinction matters significantly. On an $800,000 purchase, the difference between 10% and 25% down is about $120,000 out of pocket before closing costs. Be honest with your lender about how you plan to use the property. Lenders look at this carefully, and misrepresentation, your intent, can have serious consequences. I always recommend working with a Florida experienced lender, specifically one who understands coastal and waterfront properties in Southwest Florida. A local Florida lender knows the flood zone designations, the insurance requirements, and the specific property classification that affect your loan. An out-of-state lender who has never financed a Cape Coral waterfront home can create delays and surprises at the worst possible moment. I have a team of lenders I trust and recommend based on your specific situation, and I'm happy to connect you with the right one on our out-of-town buyers club call. Now let's talk about insurance, because this is where a lot of out-of-state buyers get caught off guard on timing. You cannot get an accurate insurance quote until after the inspection is completed. Here's why. The inspection produces two critical documents: the wind mitigation report and the 4-point inspection. Now, the wind mitigation report tells the insurance company how well the home is built to withstand wind damage. The 4-point inspection covers the 4 major systems: roof, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. Insurance companies in Florida require both of these documents before they will give you an accurate quote. Without them, any number they give you is just an estimate that could change significantly. This is why I always recommend scheduling the inspection as early as possible once we are under contract. The sooner we have these two documents in hand, the sooner we can get accurate insurance quotes from multiple carriers and know your true cost of ownership before the due diligence period expires. And as I mentioned earlier, always check whether the seller's existing flood insurance policy is transferable. A grandfathered flood insurance rate can save you thousands of dollars a year compared to starting a brand new policy. And it is one of the first things we look at on every transaction. Now, if you are paying cash, the process is simple and faster. Cash offers are more competitive in the Cape Coral Golf Access market. Closing can happen in as little as 15 days, and there are no lender requirements to navigate. You still need proof of funds ready to go before we make an offer. Sellers want to know the money is there before they take their home off the market. The inspection is where out-of-state buyers feel the most vulnerable, and it is where having the right team matters the most. My inspector does a comprehensive inspection of the home, roof, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and all the major systems. He also does a visual overview of the seawall, the dock, and the boat lift. If something catches his eye, he will flag it and recommend bringing in a specialist, a seawall company or a dock contractor who can go deeper and give you a real assessment of what you're dealing with before you commit. I attend the inspection on your behalf or walk through it with you and the inspector if you are in town during your due diligence visit. Either way, you are getting a real-time report with photos and video, not a PDF to interpret from 1,500 miles away. Once we have the inspection results, we handle any legitimate concerns appropriately. I work hard to negotiate the right price on the front end, so the inspection is about peace of mind and protection rather than reopening the negotiation. If there is a genuine safety issue or something that needs to be addressed before closing, we handle it. Most of the time, my buyers move forward with confidence because we have done a thorough job identifying the right home from the start. Now, as I mentioned in the financing section, the inspector also produces the wind mitigation and the 4-point inspection, the two documents your insurance company needs to give you an accurate quote. Now, newer homes, generally 5 years old or less, typically do not require these, which simplifies the insurance process considerably. Florida uses title companies to close real estate transactions rather than attorneys in most cases. Your title company handles the search, the title insurance, the closing documents, and the disbursement of funds. They are the neutral third party that makes sure everything is clean and everyone gets paid correctly. Here is something specific to Lee County that most out-of-state buyers, and frankly, even some out-of-area Florida agents, do not know. In Lee County, it is customary for the seller to pay for the title insurance and the title search. That is a significant cost, often several $1,000s. The buyer should not be paying. I've seen it happen multiple times where an agent from Miami or Tampa brings their buyer to Cape Coral, checks the wrong box on the contract, and the buyer ends up paying for something that the seller should have covered. That mistake costs real money, and it happens because the agent does not know the local customs. This is one of the many reasons why having a Cape Coral Golf Access specialist representing you is not just helpful, it's a financially important decision. I work with title companies in Cape Coral who handle out-of-state closings regularly. They know how to coordinate with buyers from anywhere in the country, or even the world for that matter, how to handle remote signings and how to make the process smooth regardless of where you are. You do not have to be in Florida to close. Remote closing options include mail-away closings where documents are sent to you and you sign in front of a notary back home, a mobile notary who comes to your home or office with the closing documents, or electronic closing, which is increasingly available and allows you to sign digitally from anywhere. The entire closing can happen without you ever leaving your home state if your situation requires it. Before closing, we also do a final walkthrough of the property. This is your opportunity to confirm the home is in the same condition it was when you made your offer. that any agreed repairs have been completed, and that everything is as expected before you sign. Out-of-state buyers sometimes do not realize they are entitled to this walkthrough. We always do it, and it's an important final protection before you commit. That said, if you can be there for closing, I strongly recommend it. Here's why. I'm gonna be there right beside you at the closing table, walking you through the documents, answering every question, and making sure the process feels completely comfortable. After you sign, we go to the home together and celebrate. You walk through your new Cape Coral Golf Access home for the first time as the owner. You step out to the dock, look out at the canal, and it's now yours. And if you're up for it, we might even do a quick video right there on the dock. A lot of my clients have become celebrities on this YouTube channel sharing their Cape Coral story. It's a great way to celebrate the moment and maybe help the next Chicago or Minneapolis or Cleveland boater who is sitting at home watching these videos and wondering if they can really do this. They can, and so can you. Now, before we wrap up, I want to cover a few Florida-specific considerations that directly affect your budget and your decision as an out-of-state buyer. Property taxes. Now, the first thing to know is that the number that you see on Zillow is almost always outdated and does not reflect what you will actually pay after you purchase. A practical rule of thumb for Cape Coral is to budget approximately 1.4% of the purchase price for your annual property tax. On an $800,000 home, that is around $11,200 per year. On a $1 million home, you're looking at approximately $14,000 per year. Use that number to budget accurately rather than relying on what the current owner is paying. Now, here's where it gets interesting depending on how you plan to use the home. Florida has a homestead exemption for primary residence, meaning if Cape Coral becomes your primary residence, you can file for homestead exemption, which takes up to an additional $50,000 off your assessed value and caps how much your assessed value can increase each year at 3%. That cap is significant in a rising market because your tax bill stays relatively stable even as property values go up. And if you are buying as a second home or investment property, you do not qualify for that homestead. Your assessed value can increase up to 10% per year. In a hot market, that means your tax bill can rise quite quickly. It is worth understanding that distinction before you commit. Florida also has no state income tax, which is a meaningful financial benefit for buyers coming from Illinois, Ohio, New York, or Minnesota, all states with significant state income tax. That savings adds up every single year. Now, one more thing worth knowing right now. Florida has a constitutional amendment on the November 2026 ballot called Save Our Homes from Excessive Property Taxes. If approved by 60% of voters, it could dramatically increase the homestead exemption, rising from the current $50,000 to $150,000 in 2027 and $250,000 in 2028. At $250,000, many Florida primary homeowners would pay little to no property taxes on the non-school portion of the bill. This has not passed yet. It goes to the voters in November. But if you are considering making Cape Coral your primary residence, the timing is worth paying attention to. Buyers who establish Florida residency before December 31st, 2026 would be eligible for the full expanded exemption if it passes. That is a potentially significant financial benefit for the right buyer. Next up is HOA fees. Most single-family waterfront homes in Cape Coral are not in HOA communities, which is a real advantage over many other markets. No monthly fees, no restrictions on your boat or dock, no approval process for improvements. That said, always confirm the HOA status of any property before you make an offer. Now, assessments. Cape Coral has city assessments for water, sewer, and irrigation that are separate from your property taxes. And this is something every out-of-state buyer needs to understand before they make an offer. Most of Cape Coral is connected to city water and sewer. However, there are still areas where homes are on well and septic and where assessment balances remain unpaid. Here is how it breaks down for Golf Access Canal homes specifically. Now, in the northern part of Northwest Cape Coral, the Burnt Store Road area, furthest north, you will find homes that are still on well and septic. City water and sewer has not reached those neighborhoods quite yet. The good news is that the city has plans to bring those utilities in over the next 4 to 5 years. So if you buy in that area, you can expect the infrastructure to come. But you need to budget for the assessments that will come with it when it does. Now, in the southern part of Northwest Cape Coral, you may find homes that have assessment balances that have not yet been paid off. These balances transfer to the buyer at closing if they are not addressed. Now, on every transaction, we review the assessment status carefully, and we typically negotiate to have the seller pay off any remaining balance before closing. It is not always guaranteed, but it is always the conversation we have. Now, you can also find unpaid assessment balances in Southwest Cape Coral from time to time, though it is less common there than in the Northwest area. Southeast Cape Coral is generally the most straightforward when it comes to assessments. Most homes in that area are fully connected to city water and sewer with assessments paid in full. This is another reason why having a local Cape Coral Golf Access agent matters. An out-of-area agent who does not understand the assessment situation can miss this entirely and leave their buyer responsible for costs they never anticipated. We look at this on every single property before we recommend moving forward. Now you know exactly how the out-of-state buyer process works, from the first video call through the search, the offer, the inspection, the closing, and that moment you step onto your own Cape Coral dock for the first time. This is not a complicated process when you have the right people around you, and now you have the roadmap. The next video in this series is one I get asked about most. Where do you actually go once you own a golf access home in Cape Coral? We're talking offshore fishing for grouper and snapper, island hopping to Sanibel and Captiva and Cayo Costa, anchoring at a sandbar on a Saturday afternoon, tying up at a waterfront restaurant for dinner, and watching the sun go down over the Gulf from open water on a Tuesday night like it is nothing. This is the next video, and it is the one that makes everything real. Make sure you're subscribed so you do not miss it. And if you are already past the point of just watching videos and you are ready to take the first real step, connect with me through the Cape Coral Out-of-Town Buyers Club. It's complimentary. It's designed specifically for Midwest and Northeast buyers who want to buy a golf access home in Cape Coral from out of state. When we connect, we jump on a video call. I share my screen and I walk you through exactly what your budget buys you on the water in Cape Coral right now. Buyers from Chicago, Minneapolis, Cleveland, and upstate New York connect with me every week through the Cape Coral Out-of-Town Buyers Club. Some of them are just starting to think about it. Some of them are ready to move. All of them leave that first call knowing more than they did going in and feeling more confident about what comes next. Now, that call is always the first step. If you are watching this on your TV right now, there is a QR code banner at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and grab your phone and scan it right now. Once you book that call, here is exactly what we're going to do together. I'm going to share my screen and walk you through live MLS listings on your budget. We're going to look at real neighborhoods, real traverse times, and real budget clearances for your specific boat. We're going to talk about which part of Cape Coral makes the most sense for your boating lifestyle and what a realistic timeline looks like from first conversation to closing. It's a complimentary video call, and it is the single most valuable conversation you can have if you're serious about buying a golf access home in Cape Coral from out of state. For everyone watching on your phone or computer, the link is also in the description below. I'm Barry Cessna, your Cape Coral Golf Access Realtor. Connect with me and let's figure out if this is the right move for you. Your Cape Coral dream is waiting.